Hello, I am Mantastic and Fantastic, and today I'm going to be discussing about what makes a strong dungeon defense in Creature Quest. So, over the past month and a half, 2 months or so, there's been lots of shifts in the meta, and my legendary tier list will reflect those changes again very shortly. But what I want to focus on in this video is how to build a strong defense, because right now at this point in time, the floor 1 is the most important floor basically to play through, because that usually determines whether or not you win, because if you eliminate lots of the offensive people on floor 1, you're more likely to succeed moving forward. So hopefully this video will give you some inspiration as what you should do, but what I would strongly suggest is you should only fill out 1 to 2 dungeons. It's not really feasible for the average player to even fill out more. At this point in time, even the top tier players fill out probably maybe 2, maybe, I don't even know if they even fill out 3, probably 2 at most, because we don't have enough 4 dots lying around, and you really want to prioritize 4 dots if at all possible. So when you are populating your dungeon, if you're only making 1, always try your best to utilize cards with at least 3 or more combo dots. If you have anything with less than that, it's just going to be problematic because you're just not going to have enough output overall. Of course, having a powerful kingdom in place will benefit you greatly. Like if I show you what I have currently, I have a good amount of health buff for my rare creatures. I've got a decently strong array of stat boost for each color. So like my dungeon is quite well developed, I feel, and I run 2 for the most part. And what you should try and do is, in addition to that, is if you have choices in creatures, like this is assuming you have a bit more than just the bare minimum to fill out a dungeon, you want to try and weave beneficial buffs. Now, on this floor 1 here, I've got the runic statue who can provide potentially every buff in the game as well as every debuff in the game. So he can be obviously hit, but or like miss, but when he hits properly, like when he casts a special early enough on, he can be absolutely devastating and basically make everyone else just basically stop an offense stone cold, because you basically debuff all their stats, you buffed all of yours, things are going to do crazy damage. And utilizing debuffs can be beneficial in that regards as well. So if it's convenient, you can utilize debuffs, but buffs tend to be stronger for the most part. And if you stack a few colors, you can remove threats. So I guess been very blessed or fortunate to roll lots of, well, double 4-dot kitsunes, like those 9-tailed foxes, and an owl. So I basically decided to stack all 3 of them into 1 dungeon, and their damage output is actually quite strong, and they will basically eliminate any black creature in 1 or at worst 2 hits. And because I have 3 of them, basically any black creature that walks into my dungeon is going to have a very bad time. They're just going to get nuked down to oblivion so fast. And then the last point I want to consider is know the meta creatures. So right now, the Astral Watcher tends to be one of the most popular utilized cards in Dungeon Offense, as well as Phoenix. But Astral Watcher can be a little more dangerous because he can resurrect the entire team over time. So if you have something that can counteract him, he can be shut down. So any of these 3-dot or more medium rare creatures tend to be able to counter him. So the mummy and the skeleton are the 2 best counters. So in this case here, I decided to place my mummy in conjunction with my runic statue, because the statue could debuff luck, and if the luck has been debuffed, the mummy will one-shot something instantly. And that's a pretty nice combo in my opinion. And the silence from the owl can be useful, but then I've got a resurrector at the top because I'm using 2 dungeons, so I need to use a small on one of my floors. And my little crane or kite resurrector can basically prevent people from having a good time. So what I'm going to do in this dungeon here is I'm just going to test it out. I'm going to put in someone black on my team just to showcase how strong it would be. Like normally my team, I don't run the VIP 8 Angel anymore because I feel he's a little underwhelming for the most part. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to basically just like walk through my dungeon, don't use any specials, and just get hit. And like you can just see how fast things can stack up very quickly. So I'm just going to swipe mindlessly, and like you saw there, 1 fox almost one-shot the VIP 8, and I've got pretty good shrines going on. I have 19,000 health on my VIP, my Corrupted Angel, and 3,100 defense, and that's huge, and he basically got 1 shot almost. So that's something to keep in mind, and because I have multiple white creatures, I'll instantly nuke down him and remove him right away. And if a card is dead, they're not going to donate their mana anymore. So I'm just going to tap here, I'm going to get nuked down and dead. So that was very unfortunate. So like basically right away, I lost a creature right off the bat. So Let's say I'm just going to keep swiping. I'll target that statue just to make it sad. So it did die. Like, I feel like my things are not hitting very much. But this setup, and then he didn't resurrect itself. But I'm just going to keep going, and like you can just see like what the output can be like. This team obviously this setup does need a bit of luck with the runic statue to provide some buffs. Like, he didn't do anything. He gave me a protection buff and nothing else. So it's not working as well, but like things are taking heavy damage. If I were to get the luck buff or power buff, things would die much faster. So in this case here, I kind of won the lottery in that like things are just being very friendly when they attack. I've tried this dungeon out many times, and I've lost sometimes because like even when I'm trying, I lose because things would just nuke them down too fast. The statue gets to cast their buff, and it's all over at that point. So like they do have high damage output. Like Sandworm has low defense. Sandworm is too soft in my opinion. Like my Celestial has 4,000 defense, so he's not dying. But I try and utilize high defense cards. So I'm going to quit this dungeon, and I'm going to show you what my second dungeon looks like and how I've weaved buffs very efficiently. So that's one of my setups, and that tends to be pretty successful as well. The floor 1 is the really big concern, to be honest. Like, I do have full totems across my teams, but this setup here, even though it does have less 4 dots, it's actually proven quite lethal. And the reason being is because, well, I've got the skeleton who can counter astral with 1 hit potentially, got the barbarian, and I've got basically 4 heavy damage dealers because the wyverns all deal damage. Barbarian does, the skeleton does as well, but I also have kind of support, quote unquote, through the Muse, who can heal people, and the Clockwork Soldier, who can defense debuff people. But the big issue with this wave here is that I'm actually providing lots of buffs for my team. The Wyverns all provide power buffs, and not ironically, it was planned out, but my Wyverns, Barbarian, and the Skeleton all utilize power as their source of damage. So I have 2 Wyverns, so as long as one of them gets their special off, which will always be the case, I'm going to have a power buff, and everyone will start hitting for crazy high amounts of damage. The Clockwork Soldier buffs my defense, so it keeps everyone alive longer, and also debuffs the offensive card's defense. So when their defense is broken, those big hits become like one-shots, even on off-color, like they can one-shot some things. And Muse obviously has a strong heal, but she also will provide a luck buff, so things will start critically striking. So I'm just going to put back like the team I usually would use. And we're just going to hop right in. And again, I'm just going to let it kind of just swipe and let things hit me. And you get an idea of like how fast things can potentially do damage. So I'm not sure why my air server is so poor. It's not loading. Nothing's loading in general. There we go. All right. So I've got like, it's going to give a luck buff and it's going to give like a hit. So I'm just going to hit. And then big hit. So Barbarian hit my Forest Giant for 9,800 twice. And I don't even have a power buff. And it didn't critically strike. And my Green Giant has 27,500 health. He's incredibly tanky and 3,400 defense, and he still get chopped down. But the best part is, let's get the defense buff rolling, and now everyone's been broken defense. So now my Forest Giant becomes 2,000 defense, like absolutely terrifying. Everyone's even lower now. And so hopefully, here comes the Bone Grinder. Let's see how much it hits for. Gonna do that, and okay, so my Green Giant instantly got eliminated. The Skeleton went for Oathkeeper, so he didn't actually kill it. I don't think he even critically striked, I'm not sure. My Wyverns haven't cast a spell. I'm actually very disappointed in them. Like, they're doing horrible right now. But see, now I have the buff. So, like, the idea is I've weaved the buffs, and now things are going to hit for really high amounts of damage. That should have happened earlier on. Again, there's some luck involved, of course. So here we go. So that hit pretty hard. Like, those were decently high hits, like 7,000, 8,000 per creature. And nothing's dead yet, of course, so we're just going to keep going. I'm not going to let anyone heal. So something died. Something died again. Here comes the big hits. 8,600. Just 8,200. Still pretty high when you think about it. 13,000. There's the big Bone Grinder. Like, almost one-shots Astral. So you get an idea. Like, obviously I'm not trying to win, but, like, if the Wyverns cast that power buff right away, things get sad. And basically it's going to end like, here comes the Quenching Blade and should like instantly kill this Phoenix. So there, 8,300, 7,000. Like, the damage is very high potentially. So if you can weave those buffs intelligently and stack creatures that have the same damage output, because like I stacked power buffs in this case, and I utilized creatures that had power. I didn't put my 9-tailed foxes in because they scale off luck. it would obviously work with the Muse, but all that power stacking is not going to help my nine-tailed foxes with their damage output. By stacking the power creatures, I'm actually able to deal a lot more damage with my 4 damage dealers. So basically that's kind of like how I design my dungeon defense. Like I do have things on floor 2, like I utilize buffs, resurrection, and very high single target damage nukes, as well as a strong boss at the end. I can showcase this floor here, and there is some buff stacking again. Like I utilize an attack buff from the water elemental, and that attack buff buffs the Shadow Temptress at the bottom, who one-shots everything. Draconic gets the attack buff bonus, and then he starts hitting very hard as well. And then there's 2 stuns at the bottom. So like there is some synergy built into the dungeon as well, if at all possible. Like I have this AoE stuns to disable, and then all my big hits just start flying in. So let me know what you think about this video and what strategies you utilize in the comments below for building your own effective dungeon in Creature Quest. Hopefully you all have a mantastic day, and happy questing.